For more now, we turn to CBS News political director Steve Chigueras. So, Steve, politically speaking, what did the president hope to achieve with his meeting with Emmanuel Macron? It certainly seemed like the two got along. They seemed to be congenial. If it was a matter of a reset on their relationship, it seems that happened. Was this a successful meeting?
Successful. Let's see. Well, let's put it this way. There were no major trip-related gaffes or controversies outside of what's been going on swirling at home, right? So that's going to be considered a bit of a success for the president. The fact that he can do a couple of days overseas and not create any additional controversies of his own making. But in terms of the relationship with Macron and France, you know, this is a Europe and a world, frankly, that is looking at President Trump skeptically. He came out of the G20 with this invitation, I think looked at it as an opportunity to build a bridge with France as a way to sort of maybe soften opinions of President Trump in Europe. And I think he probably started that, at least with Macron. I mean, keep in mind, too, the relationship between Trump and this French president. Trump supported this French president's opponent in the election in May, and so he had to build, sort of repair some political issues with him as well. And so, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about success, sure. I mean, it was the first step. The other thing you look at with President Trump, which is interesting, I think, in his presidency so far, is he's taken the opportunity to meet with these world leaders, and it seems like he loves the schmoozing part of it. I mean, you look at just sort of President Trump's body language when he's talking to these folks, and then the after effects. Every time Trump seems to have had a meeting with these folks, I really like this person, whether it's the Chinese president, Xi, or, you know, his continued outreach, however skeptically you want to look at it, with the Russian president and now the French president. It seems as if President Trump likes the schmoozing part of this. Whether it will have any long-term benefits, we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's maybe learning a lesson with President Xi, though, that sometimes you can get along just fine with somebody face to face, but when it comes to policy, things may change a little. So no new controversies, but he certainly wasn't able to escape the controversy swirling here back at home with his son and the release of that email chain. Now the Senate Judiciary Committee wants to talk to Donald Trump Jr. It seems that the release of that email chain has given rise to more questions than anything else. What does Congress need to know?
Well, what they're going to want to know is what we all want to know, which is, first of all, why did the disclosure of this meeting only come out after the New York Times was about to report these emails? That's something, you know, with the smoke that's swirling around the White House on this issue. For the fact that this has been really sort of kept secret for a year, I think Congress is going to want to know that. Investigators want to know why didn't you tell anybody about this? That's the first question. Secondly, I think the other question is, what was this dirt that supposedly this Russian lawyer was peddling to Donald Trump Jr. And Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort that they all said was nothing? Well, what was it? I think they're going to want to know what that was, and why, again, would you sit down with somebody from Russia and take that meeting, even though you say it's Oppo research and everybody does it? You got to know that, at least have some knowledge that Russian officials and people connected to Russia, people you probably don't want to sit down with in these situations. So I think those questions they're really going to hammer Trump on if they can get him in front of the committee.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, it's one thing to talk to lawmakers. It's different to testify, where you have to tell the truth, or you could face prosecution. So the New York Times is reporting that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, updated the foreign contact list on his security clearance, and he updated it 3 times. The reason we know about this Russia meeting is because he had to update it again. He went from 0 names on that list to 100 names on that list. What's your take on his role in all of this?
Kushner, so he's the nexus, right? This is the reason, as you said, why we know this meeting had happened. And it's not the first time that Kushner's found himself at the center of this controversy. And so the complications here are numerous. First of all, this is a family member of the president, right? And so he's getting into all sorts of controversies. He's got his fingerprints on all different parts of this Russia controversy, yet he's the son-in-law of the president. So how does that work out? He now has a security clearance in the White House. You have political opponents of the president saying, why does he have a security clearance after he misled on his forms that he filed to get this security clearance? Maybe he should get his security clearance taken away. Or frankly, maybe he should be fired, depending on who you ask in terms of the president's political opponents. And on top of all of that, Jared Kushner is somebody who has been given a huge portfolio in this White House to deal with foreign policy, whether it's Middle East, whether it's China. Now he's all over this controversy. This is a guy who, again, I think is just, there's a lot of questions being raised about him, and what can the president do about him being a family member? I don't know. It just seems like it's a big albatross around the president's neck. It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with this moving forward.
Yeah, right. So meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Republican senators are toiling away trying to hammer out a revised health care bill. They do not have a lot of wiggle room on this at all. Two senators have already said that they're going to vote no. I think that means they have maybe one no vote wiggle room left. If this does not make it, if they cannot pass this bill, who gets the blame?
Depends on who you ask, right? I think outside conservative groups will blame Republicans writ large and saying you campaigned on this for 7 years to repeal Obamacare and you're unable to do it. But I think, and blame is the wrong word, but I think you have to look at the real reason for this having so much trouble for Republicans is it's the voters, it's Americans who are saying they don't like this bill. And Republicans have been going home, whether you're a House Republican or a Senate Republican, and you're getting yelled at by constituents and voters saying, why are you doing this? We don't agree with this. And so you have members of Congress, Republicans, who are either facing tough re-elections next year, or even those that aren't facing tough re-elections. There are some senators who are in solidly Republican districts who won last year with large margins who are saying we don't support exactly what's going on here. And so I think you can point the finger and say the American people are speaking and Republicans are listening.
Steve Jagaris, thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks.